Hello people, this is Black Sage D here. Now I know I'm a bit late on this issue, but I just wanted to wait until the dust settles and that everything was all said and done, but apparently pretty much nothing has changed, and I just wanted to make this video. Again, this subject is about a year old, so I apologize if some news seem dated. I want to start off by saying this. I'm not going to be holding back on my opinions on this issue right here. If you're a PlayStation fanboy, I suggest you either click off this video right now or plan your next therapy session, because after I get done roasting you, I'm not going to be in the mood to deal with you clowns. Now I also want to say this. This video is made from a place of love. I wouldn't be making this video if I wasn't a PlayStation fan. I wouldn't have all of these PlayStation exclusives and hardware if I wasn't a PlayStation fan. So miss me with that. I'm not a Nintendo fan, I'm not a PC weirdo, and I'm definitely not an Xbox gamer. So you can miss me with the fanboy shit. And I want to say this, some of the retarded shit that you people have been saying has honestly gotten under my skin for the past few weeks, and I just had enough of it. So on to the video. I remember when PlayStation used to be the go-to place to play niche Japanese games. Games that you wouldn't get on any other platform, hell, not even on Nintendo. I remember when Sony used to be the place you can go to play uncensored video games. And it was because of that freedom that third-party developers flocked to the PlayStation platform during the 5th generation. It was a win-win for everyone. But then, in late 2018, Sony decided to enact an arbitrary censorship policy that no doubt caused a lot of damage and harm to free expression for a lot of developers. Now I'm going to read this article from a website known as Bounding Into Comics, titled, Sony confirms existence of strict censorship content policy regarding PlayStation 4 releases. The article goes on to talk about how Sony is basically censoring games. In the wake of Sony's recent trend of arbitrarily censoring video games released on their PlayStation 4 console, a Sony spokeswoman has confirmed the existence of a company censorship policy, which they claim has been developed out of desire to protect children and in response to American societal developments. Pause. Last time I checked, Sony is a Japanese technology company. Since when did they care so much about American social politics? Moving on. Recent months have seen numerous instances of censorship by which Sony appeared to almost exclusively target titles made by Japanese developers, aiming to release their titles on Sony's PlayStation 4 console. These instances also include Devil May Cry 5, seeing a single instance of Trish's nude backside covered by a purple light for Western territories. Now I just wanted to point out that the Western version of DMC5 on the PlayStation 4 has been patched out to its original version. Apparently this was on Capcom's part and not Sony, so I just wanted to point that out there just to be fair. Risque items which alter jiggle physics and allow players to roll wind of a character's skirt being completely removed from Dead or Alive Extreme 3 Scarlet, and an embattled development cycle for Senran Kagura 7, which led to the series producer Kenichiro Takagi resigning from Marvel's Entertainment over Sony's insistent censorship. While no official statement has been previously provided by Sony, many fans began to speculate the company had adopted widespread censorship policy, which particularly focused on sexual content. In a recent Wall Street Journal article, a spokeswoman confirmed the existence of a strict censorship content policy, stating that it was developed in order to protect children, but declining to provide details regarding the specifics, such as when the content policy was adopted or what the guidelines entail. The article quote says, a Sony spokeswoman confirmed the company has established its own guidelines so that creators can offer well-balanced content on the platform, and gaming does not have to inhibit the sound growth and development of young people. She declined to say what these guidelines are or were introduced to discuss them in detail. However, content which may be harmful or detrimental to children is not the only content which Sony is attempting to combat with this policy. According to the Wall Street Journal, the policy was heavily influenced by the Me Too movement and the rise of live streaming platforms. Two factors last year combined to turn that unease into action, these Sony officials say. One was the rise of the Me Too movement in the US, which pointed to the dangers of being associated with content that some might see as demeaning to women. The second was the emergence of channels on sites like YouTube and Amazon's Twitch, with gamers playing in front of a camera watched by fans online. That means that games meeting Japan's lesser standards can get worldwide exposure. Some have noted that the actions regarding content that some might see demeaning to women has already taken place. In March 2018, self-proclaimed feminists and activists successfully pressured Sony into removing Super Seductive from PlayStation Network storefront, even though the game is still available to purchase on Steam. While Sony's policy will continue to have an abysmal effect on the creative expression and will severely limit artistic freedom, the arbitrary policy also carries with it an enormous financial cost to developers. According to a chief executive of a small Japanese developer, quote, "You don't know what they'll say until they actually complete the work and submit it in for review," said the chief executive. "And if they say they are not happy, even if they allowed the same degree of sexuality a few days before, we need to take it back to our staff to make adjustments. That's very costly." Now I want to read another article from Bounding in the Comments, titled, "Nintendo President Confirms Company Has No Intention of Censoring Games." Nintendo confirmed at a recent shareholders meeting that there are no plans for the company to censor games released on their platform. At the 79th annual greeting meeting of shareholders, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa was asked about Nintendo's stance on quote-unquote cases of restrictions applied independently of ratings boards, such as ESRB, PEGI, and Zero. In response, Furukawa confirmed that Nintendo would not arbitrarily decide which content to censor, while also noting that such censorship is hazardous to the creativity in the industry. I'm sorry, but when Nintendo starts adopting a more mature stance on game ratings and game content, you know things are entirely fucked up. Now right off the bat, I really find it funny that Sony is automatically thinking about the children and focusing on well-balanced content that doesn't demean women when they have video games that literally encourages real-world gambling and games where you can decapitate, torture, maim, eviscerate, beat up, and absolutely destroy female characters. Also, I really find it funny that Sony thinks about the children when they have video games on the PlayStation 4 that is not only rated E, but also has literal loot boxes and gambling, where games literally encourage gambling amongst young children. But you know, a woman in a bikini, that's too much for them. That type of hypocrisy is what made me lose a lot of respect for Sony. That shows me that you're spineless of a company, that you actually think that violent and shady content is way more palatable than a game about girls in bikinis and holding a woman's hand in a video game. And that goes back to you Sony fanboys. You dudes think that blowing a chick's head off in a video game is more acceptable than giving a woman a massage. I'm sorry, but that really pissed me off right there. And you Sony niggas, you PlayStation dickheads, are entirely to blame for all this. Because you want to know why? Because you corporate slaves will excuse anything that Sony does, as long as they give you that next interactive movie, that is. That's how I know the majority of you dumbass motherfuckers are Xbox 360 refugees, only playing the latest Western AAA blockbuster instead of more niche titles. And I'm really disappointed in the current PlayStation fanbase for excusing censorship. If they took away violence in video games, then you corporate dick suckers would be crying up a storm right now. And I'm gonna say this for the rest of you ass clowns out here: nobody stays on top for long. History has shown that the front runner of the previous generation will always be made the bottom bitch next generation. It happened with Nintendo, it happened to Microsoft, and now it's gonna happen to Sony next generation. Don't get it twisted, PlayStation fanboys. And now that I got the angry part out the way, I want to get on to Sony themselves. Look, I'm a hardcore realist. I understand why Sony had to create this policy. They did it as a business strategy. They're the market leaders of this generation, and one would be foolish not to see why. Sony absolutely killed it this generation by making quality first-party titles, an abundance of great features such as PSVR and Share Factory, and the amount of great marketing PR on their part. I know that Sony is not unreasonable, and they reversed their stance on crossplay, which was a great pro-consumer move on their part. So I'm not under the assumption that they'll never listen to us. That being said, I'm more hurt by Sony's decision to censor video games more than anything. I'm more hurt by Sony's decision to censor video games that have sexual content. Personally for me, I've never played a single Senran Kagura game in my life. I've never played any of these risque Japanese video games. Not a single one is in any of my game libraries. I'm not a fan of them at all. That being said, I do defend the right of Senran Kagura's right to exist. It deserves the right to exist on the same platform as The Last of Us and Mortal Kombat. What angers me the most about Sony's censorship policy is how ineffective it is. Sony hasn't saved any woman from being sexually harassed or abused, and the thought about saving the children is absolutely ludicrous, considering that there are much worse games for them to play. Not to mention the fact that these games have a rating system for a reason. You know the craziest part about all this? That these same games released on other platforms and nobody batted an eye against them. Omega Labyrinth Life released on the Nintendo Switch and is about to come out on PC, and nobody said anything about the game. Not to mention the fact that the supposed Senran Kagura burst renewal didn't court any controversy whatsoever. So again, Sony was afraid of nothing. They removed an entire mode from the game for nothing. They didn't save any real women from this policy, and they completely set a bad precedent for the entire gaming industry. Look, you don't have to like these games to see why this is such a bad thing here. For years, the gaming community has fought to keep games uncensored and away from government regulation. Hell, we even had a United States Supreme Court ruling deeming games part of free speech. And for Sony to spit on that fight and censor video games to appease the woke social justice critics is the most infuriating thing for me. Look, I don't know if Sony is going to look at this video, but I'm going to say this. Sony, I know you can do the right thing here. You still have time to reverse this policy.
Thank you, friends.
I know you guys are better than this, and you have proved that time and time again. For years, PlayStation has been my go-to platform for video games. You're a big part of my childhood, Sony, and a PlayStation platform, the games on it, helped me to become the man I am today, and has cultivated my love for gaming more than anything else. I would seriously hate this to be the end of that relationship. Ironically enough, tomorrow is the 25th anniversary of the PlayStation brand as a whole, and it has shown how video games can be exciting experiences all over the world. And I'm reminded of this statement by Jim Ryan, the current head of PlayStation, and how it gave me so much hope for the brand. This was in response to the controversy in Paris Games Week in 2017, with trailers regarding The Last of Us 2 and Detroit Become Human. When asked about the controversy, Ryan said this: "We showed a lovely range of games at the media showcase last night. The Last of Us is obviously a game made for adults, played by adults. I should never prejudge this, but it will probably be rated 18. I think it's fair to say. And there's that market for those people who like that sort of game. Adults who like that sort of game. I think we cater for that." At the other end of the spectrum, there was Concrete Genie, which my 8-year-old decided was the game she would like to play very much. I think a platform holder provides a platform, and the people who make games, whether they're our own studios or third-party publishers, they bring content to the platform. We provide the platform. We have to ensure the right content is played by the right people, of appropriate ages in particular. I thought The Last of Us Part 2 was a great way to end the show, and I feel very good about it. I think what we're trying to do is portray the qualities of various games we had on the show. I think it's difficult when you have a clip of 4 or 5 minutes to synthesize a gameplay experience that can be measured in tens of hours. And again, the studios were seeking to portray a game that will be rated suitable for adults to play, and that's what we did. And with that statement, I truly believe that Sony does stand by that line of thinking. If you truly believe that games are art, Sony, then you definitely should not be censoring games or an artist's free expression. I'll end this video with this. This poignant scene right here in The Last of Us would have never been made if this censorship policy was enacted today. You can do better than this, Sony. Happy 25th anniversary.
I knew you had heart. You know, it's okay to give up. Ain't no shame in it. I guess not. Just not your style, is it? You can try begging.
Fuck you.
You think you know me? Huh? Well, let me tell you something. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
No.